Hey, how's it going? Hui. So this video has been a long time coming. It's been a few weeks now since my first powerlifting competition, and I really wanted to do a kind of summation of how it went, but I've just been too busy. Yeah, there's been a lot going on in November, so I just haven't had the time to sit down and do this, basically. However, it has given me the ability to kind of decompress and look at how everything went logically. So, where to begin? Basically, a few months ago, I was feeling really lost when it came to my training. I still wanted to continue with the strength stuff, but I just didn't really have an aim. So I decided to invest in a coach, more specifically a powerlifting coach, someone who had some experience with not only training but competing. And that led me to a guy called John Carter at my gym. Shout out to you, John, thanks for that. And we sat down and made a plan of attack, and that was basically just to get me to my first competition. It was really important that we didn't put any pressure on, like placing or winning or hitting anything ridiculous. The main concern was having a solid program that would have me peaking and being able to just kind of enjoy the meet. Thus began, I guess, 3 months? Wait, 6, 12... like 4 or 5 months, I think, of training, culminating in this kind of peaking period for my competition. So we decided to go with the British Powerlifting Federation and the Southeast Open, which was on the 3rd of November in Dover, as my first competition. So, how did it go, I hear you ask? Well, take a look for yourselves.
30 seconds.
Come, Rob.
And that's a good day.
Pull it. Attack. Attack it, Rob. Oh.
So, day of the competition. What can I say? It was an awesome experience. Really enjoyable watching everyone else compete. It ended up being, I think, a 7.5 hour day. So, yeah, something that I'm not used to, but found it surprisingly enjoyable. I didn't at any point feel like I was sitting around bored or, you know, I just wanted to kind of get on with it. The whole thing was a brilliant experience. It definitely really helped having a coach there who was able to take on that burden of, you know, deciding when to start warming up for my lifts, and being really on it with when I was going to be called. It meant that I was able to just kind of sit back and enjoy the day and execute the things that I needed to execute. He also took care of deciding my next lifts. So when the way it works is you pick your opening weight for your first attempt, and then that's at the beginning of the day, and then you go up and you do that. After your first attempt, you can then decide how much your successive attempts, your second and third attempts, how much you want to put those up. Now, I didn't really have any specific goals, so I left that decision to my coach, which was great because it meant that I could kind of take my emotional feelings or my emotion out of that decision making, and I could have someone who was on the outside looking at how my form was and how difficult or easy the lifts looked to make that decision for me, which was great, to the point where on my bench I didn't want to know what he'd put down. So when I went up for my bench attempts, I didn't know what I was lifting for the second and third try. And what that meant was that it was a lot harder to psych myself out, because instead of going, oh, I know how much I'm going to lift and that's a heavy weight, I just got under the bar, made sure that I, you know, executed everything that I needed to, got everything as tight as possible, and then just kind of gave it my all. So, the lifts. First up, squats. These were actually the ones that I was dreading the most, because sometimes my squat form can vary from session to session. Depends on, you know, how tired my core is and how tired I'm feeling on the day. But warming up, everything felt great. No issues with mobility whatsoever. So first attempt was pretty solid. You know, I went in with confidence because I knew that I could lift that for a few reps, but it was heavy enough to get that feeling of a heavy weight on my back. Second attempt felt pretty solid, pleasantly surprised. Like, it was tough, but it moved up pretty smoothly. And then the third attempt, obviously I knew that this was going to be the heaviest of the lot, so I was shitting myself, to put it lightly, but it was good. I feel like it went up well. Nothing felt like it was caving in. Form held strong, but it was challenging enough where I knew I was pushing myself. Again, didn't really know what I was lifting, but I was really happy when it went up. And as you can probably tell, you know, it involved some effort, but got it up, so to speak. And ended up with a 155, which I'm pretty happy with. I didn't really want to push anything too hard because I was trying to save some of my lower back and some of my core for the deadlifts, which is the one that I really wanted to push myself on. So yeah, really happy with that. Bench. This has always been a weak point for me, especially after developing a bit of a shoulder issue. So I was concerned with how this this would have gone, or was going to go. But yeah, felt pretty solid throughout. Form felt good. Second one was like challenging, but felt pretty good. Now, I won't be able to show you because unfortunately we didn't get a clip, but my third attempt I actually failed. Now, I could come up with all the reasons under the sun, and one of the main things that happened here was when you come down on a competition bench, you have to pause until they give you the drive command. Now, normally this is like a split second, so it's just enough to make the bar stop sort of moving and oscillating words. But for some reason on this last attempt, they decided to leave me down there for a good few seconds, and it felt like fucking forever. So when I went to drive, the bar started moving, but I think I was just done, and it got stuck just off my chest, a few inches off my chest. So that didn't go up, unfortunately. So yeah, that sucked, but at the same time, it was quite nice to know that I had tried moving a weight that was testing for me, especially on a pause bench. Turns out that my second attempt, because again, I didn't know what I was going to lift, turns out my second attempt was 90 kilograms and my third attempt that I failed was 92.5. So it was only 2.5 jump, but that pause really fucked me over. So hey ho, such is life. You learn from your experiences, right? Finally, deadlifts. This was definitely the one that I was looking forward to. I didn't have any real goals going into this competition, but deadlift was definitely one of them. It's also typically my strongest lift and the one that I feel the best about. So this is the one that I was kind of saving the psych up music for. Really trying to get myself in some sort of zone, doing a lot of breathing, like sort of, I guess, hyperventilating between the lifts to try and charge myself up as much as possible. First lift, I decided to open up pretty strong, definitely higher than other people in my weight category. I started that at 200. That was interesting. So I'm going to pause for a second here on the weights themselves. One of the great things about this competition was that I learned a lot. I said to myself that the worst thing that could have happened with my first competition is that I go in and everything goes super smoothly, because then I wouldn't have felt like I'd have learned anything. What you're about to see is what happens when you forget to check your equipment before you get on stage.
Come Rob.
30 seconds.
Come Rob.
Yeah, so backstory to that one. Throughout the day, you're drinking a lot of water, like a lot, and you have a tendency to want to pee a lot, especially just before your lifts when your body starts, you know, pumping full of adrenaline. So I'd literally just gone to the toilet, obviously undone my singlet, and then as I was prepping to go on, I completely fucking forgot about it. I did my belt up like super tight as well for deadlifts. And yeah, when I got up there, the judge called me on the fact that my singlet wasn't done up properly. And so then panic ensues, and what you just saw there is a result of that. So lesson learned. Anyway, back to the lifts themselves. After that panic, I had 30 seconds to do my lift, which is, you know, plenty of time, but still hearing that tends to panic you a bit. So I kind of just went up there and did it. Probably could have got a little bit tighter and set up a bit better, but again, under the pressure, I was just like, let's just fucking grab this and pull it off the floor. So yeah, that was my first attempt. Second attempt, 210, 10 kilogram jump, which was, you know, it's a decent chunk. Felt like it went up well. You know, it was a little bit more challenging, and again, probably wasn't as tight in the core as I could have been, but considering that I had already done my squat and my bench attempts and I'd been there for the whole day, I feel like that probably didn't help, but it felt good. And then I knew what was coming next, and that was something I'd been aiming for, and I'm still aiming for, which was the 3 bodyweight deadlift, which at my weigh-in, because I was 73 kilograms or 73.1, that would have equated to, you know, rounding up 220. My coach knew that I wanted this, and he knew that that was my goal, so he put that down. This is what you're seeing now, the result of that. Unfortunately, didn't get it, and my coach said afterwards that he reckoned if he'd have put 215 down, then I probably would have got it. But then I would have hated him for it, because the 220 was my goal, and he knew that. Not only that, but if I'd have got the 215, I would have always wondered if I would have been able to get the 220. So we decided that it was just best to go for it. And although watching this sucks, it also makes me really happy, because I know that I gave it my all, like I left it all out there. There is no way that I never normally hold on to a deadlift for that long if I don't feel it going. So I know that I fucking busted my balls there, as you can probably tell by my face. So you know, it sucks that I didn't get it, but I'm happy with what happened. Very strange thing happened as well right afterwards. As soon as I dropped that weight, I'd been really chilled throughout the whole day, kind of worryingly so. But that moment that weight hit the floor, I felt like I wanted to fucking cry. It's very strange. Literally just everything just released. You know, a part of that is being obviously so bummed and putting so much pressure on wanting to get that lift. But also, I just think that a part of it was knowing that I was done. Like, I think a part of it was joy. Like, I was done with my lifts. You know, I'd made a good effort, and I could just chill out for the rest of the evening. And I knew that I didn't have that mental pressure anymore for the weeks afterwards, because, you know, in these months and especially weeks leading up to the competition, it'd been on my mind, it'd been weighing on my mind, and I'd been, you know, making sure to try and get enough rest, and I've been like cutting out certain things, not cutting out, but like vastly reducing certain things, drinks perhaps, and just making an effort to make sure that I could come to the competition well rested and try and give my best effort. So I think once that had done, my brain was like, there's nothing anymore. There's just nothing to worry about. So yeah, it's a very cathartic release at the end of that. So, what did I learn? That's a fucking good question. Thumb loops, Rob, on your wrist wraps. Take them off. I got called up on a couple of occasions for still having my wrist wraps on my thumb loops on my wrist wraps. Because what you're supposed to do is you like hook them on, you wrap your wrist wrap, and then you take the thumb loop off. And again, the federation rules dictate that you can't have your thumb loops on when you lift. Luckily, they were very chill about it, and they just called me up on it afterwards. It didn't affect my lifts, but I don't want to run that risk. I don't want to run the risk of getting a personal best in future, and then it not counting or something because I've got fucking thumb loops on. The other one was my belt. So my very first squat attempt, I didn't have my belt on to its proper tightness that I wanted. It was quite loose, and so I just fucking walked up onto the platform, stood there, and then started adjusting my belt. And they called my coach to the side and sort of said, look, he can't be fiddling with his belt on stage. So yeah, that's one. What else were the silly bollocks mistakes I made? Oh yeah, the singlet thing that I said earlier, that was one of them. That was fucking stupid. Never again. Yeah, I think those are like very small things. Eat more food. Just fucking eat. Like, stop with the light and easy carbohydrate bollocks. Like, yes, it's good to have easy, quick and easy digesting carbohydrates, but also don't be afraid to eat foods that just have fuckloads of calories. Like, the people that had obviously done this before were chowing down on donuts and shit like that. And I was eating calories, but I could have done better. Like, so yeah, definitely come a bit more prepared with some food that, you know, is a little bit more substantial, I reckon. Water, probably could have drunk a little bit more water. Pre-workouts, caffeine, I could have made a bit more use of that. I didn't really have an awful lot because I was wanting to pace myself. I didn't want to just be tripping balls on the stage, but I also probably just didn't take in enough to get like that little bit of a benefit. And I wonder if I had sort of pumped myself up a bit more on caffeine, would that have helped a little? But you know, I was alright. I didn't really need it for the energy. Other than that, I think it went well. I did some solid lifts. I was really happy with my form on each of them, and a couple of the lifts I failed, but it was because I was pushing myself, and that's fine. I'm happy not to get all white lights throughout the whole of the event if it means that I tried to push my numbers. I think in fact getting all white lights would have been worse because I wouldn't have had a real gauge as to where my strength levels lie. So yeah, that was actually, it was kind of like really enjoying failing, which is something that I'm actually working on right now in general as a day-to-day rule. This idea of failure being such an absolute and such a negative thing, which is such bullshit. The times that I've learned the most and developed the most as a person is through the fuck-ups, through the quote-unquote failures, and it's all a learning experience. So yeah, taking that away from that one. But yeah, other than that, again, really good day. Everyone was super professional, you know, even though it went on later than expected. Everything worked efficiently. Everyone was in such a good mood. I ended up chatting to some of the other competitors and their families. The atmosphere was just wicked. I think my biggest take home from the day as a whole was that at no point did it ever feel like a competition. It just felt like a bunch of people getting together to push themselves and to see for themselves the culmination of months worth of training, and everyone there supporting them in that endeavor, even to the point where at the end there were no announcements of like first or second or third. There was an announcement because one of the guys broke a record, which is awesome. People's totals were announced, but not in relation to their weight category. So yeah, it was an awesome environment, and it just makes you want to do it more, because instead of being shit scared that, you know, you might not come first, or you might not place, or that you might place last or something like that, you forget about that. You I'm sure there are people that go there to do that and they have that, but those are probably people who want to step up to another level, and that is probably a big part of their life. But for me, it never felt like that. So that I really enjoyed, because it makes me want to do it again. It makes me want to have that goal in the future. And the feeling when you've got a room full of people cheering you on and supporting you is just fucking brilliant. So if anyone is on the fence whether to compete or not, I would say definitely do it, mainly just because the experience is great. It's really interesting, molding your training to fit the certain standards. So for example, making sure that form is on point, waiting for commands and stuff like that. And like I say, it's just a great atmosphere. Just do it. Like, don't worry about being ready. Just book in and do it, because you learn so much from your first time around that, if you want to compete in another one later on and you want to get serious about it, well, then you can worry about, training to bring your numbers up to a certain standard. Just go in, get a competition done, learn from it, and get used to that environment, because there is a lot that you learn. Just do it. That's all I can say. So, what next? Where do we go from here? It's really hard to decide when you don't have a specific goal. Now that the dust has settled on this first competition, I guess the next step would be another competition. But I don't really know when I want to do it. If I do another competition too soon, it might sort of slow my progress, because I'm not giving myself that room to grow into. But I also don't want to leave it a long time. So I think I'm going to take some time, a few months, to bump up my numbers a bit, maybe gain a little bit of weight, because one of the main things that I realized when I was there is that if I'm not competing against anyone else and I'm just trying to better myself, then weight classes don't matter. I'm not trying to get every competitive advantage that I can. So why not fuel my body, gain a bit of good weight, obviously, and then use that to bump my numbers up. So I think that's the next step. But if I was to say a specific goal, then I definitely think the 3 bodyweight deadlift is still calling my name. I'm close. I'm so fucking close, and I am determined now more than ever to get that fucker. And I will do it. I will fucking do it. If you've watched this, thank you. Hopefully you found this somewhat entertaining or informative. And yeah, here's to watching this back in a year or two's time and seeing where we're at. Take care.